Hi, Charles Conn here again. I'm the former CEO of the Rhodes Scholarship Program, and I'm here to talk about Bulletproof Problem Solving, the new book I've written with my colleague Rob McLean. Rob and I were colleagues at McKinsey Company, and the object of this series is to talk about 7 steps to bulletproof problem solving that we think is useful for all kinds of problems. Today I'm going to talk about a business problem. In previous videos I've talked about how you might approach social sector problems. And in the first video, I summarized the 7-step approach. So we're going to go quite quickly through a business problem and a particular kind of logic tree that I think is really important. Let me set up the case. So the company is a company called Truck Gear, which is a real company. And Truck Gear produces an accessory for trucks. And the CEO of this company came to me and he said, I'm experiencing margin pressure. I've been in operations for 4 or 5 years. My sales have been growing around 50% a year, which is really great for a young company. But I'm seeing an increase in my materials costs and my manufacturing costs, and that's squeezing my margins because I haven't been able to change my prices so far. And I want to know what to do because my profitability is going down. I'm concerned that if I were to raise my price, that maybe my demand would go down and I'd end up losing even more money. And so that's the problem that was presented to us. To crack that kind of problem, we like to use something called a profit tree, and I'll introduce a more sophisticated version of this later. But the most simple kind of profit tree just looks at revenues minus costs, and it breaks revenues into the average price per unit and then the number of units sold. And in this case, we've also broken the number of units sold into the 3 segments that this company sells into: new truck dealers, used truck dealers, and direct online sales. And you can see down below in costs, we usually break it out into variable costs, that's costs that change according to how many units are produced, and fixed costs, which are things like the rent for the business and the staff costs that don't go up or down as you produce more or less. What you can see in this particular example is where the pressure is. The variable cost per unit was going up, and that was driven principally by the cost of materials and manufacturing costs. And the concern was that that's pushing down margins and making the business less profitable. In this case, we looked at all the different levers that we could change. And one of the critical levers that we saw right at the beginning was price. So can we negotiate with suppliers so that materials costs don't go up as much? Can we negotiate with manufacturing to drive costs down? Or do we need to raise price? That's what this tree helps us understand. Our concern was coming into it that the units sold are affected by our competitors' prices, our customer price sensitivity, the margins that are required by our dealers, and our marketing and sales efforts. So we weren't sure which of the levers we could affect. So you'll all remember that the 3rd stage in problem solving is the prioritization stage. And here we did some analysis, and we actually did a phone survey with customers so that we could understand how sensitive they were to pricing. And we went and spoke to the manufacturing companies that were manufacturing the product and the shipping companies, and as well as the material suppliers who supply the manufacturers. Here's what we discovered. In this case, manufacturing costs were the biggest component of cost and the biggest source of pressure on margins, but they were impossible to adjust because we're a relatively small company. We found out that shipping costs and rent had a pretty low impact on margins, and in any case, we didn't have any ability to change those. So we focused all of our attention in this upper right-hand quadrant again, which is on pricing and marketing costs. We're very nervous about trying to affect marketing costs because we were afraid that we might see a decrease in demand from that. And what we found out was from the work that we did on the telephone that our customers actually were quite happy with our price points. And what you can see here is exactly what happened. This is a mathematical example, and that's what's great about deductive logic trees, is that by putting the right numbers in each one of these branches and twigs of the tree, we found out that only a 9% increase in prices would double the cash profitability of the business. And because we had been able to do the survey with customers, we had pretty good certainty that we weren't going to see a fall off in sales. And that's exactly what the business did in this case. So I hope you can see, again, this kind of approach to problem solving where we break problems apart. We're very clear about what problem we're trying to answer. We break problems apart into their component pieces. we do analytic work to understand the pieces well, we prioritize them, and then we make decisions, is a very powerful way of looking at this case in terms of business problems. The analytic stage here is relatively straightforward, and I've pretty much just also given you steps 6 and 7, which is how you tell the story. So thanks for listening.